Oh, good morning. Good morning. How the devil are you doing this fine day? Hope you're all fit and well. How was your weekend? I took the long-suffering Mrs. Demolition News out to celebrate our 33 years of married bliss on Saturday. Very nice it was too. I did a quick bit of filming yesterday before spending my time sorting out the jungle with our back garden. The filming bit you'll be able to see a bit later in the show. I then made the rookie error of saying how nice it would be to actually sit outside and work again now that our garden looks a bit less like the Amazon rainforest. I awoke this morning to rain, which means my chance of actually taking the laptop and a large cup of tea into the garden today, somewhat remote, I would suggest. I also took a moment to test out the strength of my Wi-Fi in the back garden to see if it would be possible to actually live stream from there. From what I saw yesterday, not even a remote possibility. However, I do have a Wi-Fi booster kicking around the place. I'm not entirely sure where it is, but there's one here. I'm going to give that a try. I realise that it's going to put me and this show at the mercy of my next-door neighbour's lawnmower and the occasional passing train, but it would be nice when the summer finally rolls around to do an al fresco show. We shall see. We're working on it in the background. As ever, we do have a packed show for you today, and it does include a couple of exclusive new films as well. So stick around for that if you can. Incidentally, this time 4 years ago today, I was in Japan. I was in Kobe, actually, and I was touring demolition sites, like any self-respecting tourist would do. In addition to providing the inspiration for my book, The Japanese Way, it was also the source of my most successful podcast episode to date. I recorded it walking down a mountain in Kobe and riding the bullet train down to Tokyo and various other places as well. If you'd like to check it out, you can go to your preferred podcast provider. All you need to do is type Demolition News Radio, and the episode is called A Japanese Adventure. But of course, it's called A Japanese Adventure. Failing that, I've just put a link to it in the chat. If you'd like to go and give that a listen, then please feel free. Now, without further ado, let me roll the intro, post the question of the day, which is back by popular demand, and get this show on the road. I want to say a couple of very quick good mornings. Good morning to Mantas that are watching over on LinkedIn. Good morning to you, sir. And also to Kerry Jones, who is listening but won't be able to communicate. I'm a bit busy. Don't worry, Kerry. I have plenty to say for both of us. So you sit back and relax and do whatever it is you're busy with, and I'll take care of the rest of it. Now, it is Monday, the 15th of May. Welcome to the Breakfast Show. I am your host, Mark Anthony. In today's show, we are up close with LiuGong's big demolition rig. We get an exclusive look at the latest mini excavators from Kobelco. We're mining with XCMG. Plus, is this the real reason for the HSE crackdown on dust? We'll get to all of that in just a second. But first, let me peer back through the mist of time to see what was happening on this day in history. On this, blimey, don't know what happened there. On this day in 1536, the trial of Anne Boleyn took place. It didn't end well. Mind you, she saved a fortune in hats. On this day in 1936, Amy Johnson landed in Croydon, having flown from South Africa in a record 4 days and 16 hours. Some people will do anything to get to IKEA. In 1951, plastic surgeon Harold Gillies performed the world's first sex reassignment surgery. What a can of worms he opened with that one. And in 2002, the movie Bowling for Columbine, a Michael Moore movie, premiered at the Cannes Film Festival. Did nothing to change US gun law or to prevent the school shootings the film was about, which now seem to happen on a pretty much daily basis. Worth a try, I guess. Now, before we get into the real meat of the show, let me remind you of our question of the day, and let me do so using my computer avatar. Yes, what would you do if you were made king for a day? If old sausage fingers hadn't got the gig and the very expensive hat that goes with it, what would you be doing right about now? I'm going to say a very quick good morning to Dan Cullen, who's just joined us, and he says, "Everyone, how is everyone?" And I think we have a newcomer, Michael Vierhan. I'm taking a stab at that. Michael, thank you very much indeed for joining us. Excuse me, from the land of LinkedIn. I'm going to give you your welcome confetti because that's how we welcome newcomers to the show. Michael, very welcome indeed. Let me know where you're watching from and what attracted you to the show in the first place. But thank you very much indeed for being here. Now, it is time to start the show properly. So let's press one of these. We haven't actually featured LiuGong on the show for quite some time, and I feel it's about time that we put that right. And we're going to do so right now with a look at an absolute beast of a demolition rig.
My name's Andrew Millen. I work for LiuGong Direct UK. We're here today at the Brown & Mason site at Cotton Power Station. Today we are with the 995F LiuGong machine. This is a 95-ton machine that is powered by a 2806J Perkins engine, delivering 447 kilowatts of power, fitted with a shear attachment. It's working today in a demolition environment. Obviously that's a big attachment, and that is over 9 tons of weight that needs to be moved about. And to do that, we're using a Kawasaki slew motor that's delivering 427 kilowatts of power. If you notice with this machine, it's a 995F DM. DM signifies Demolition Specification Machine. The Demolition Specification machines come with OPGs, it comes with demolition ram guards, it also comes with Demolition Specification belly plates. This is a machine specifically designed for demolition work. Something we are very, very keen to promote now in the UK is the fact that LiuGong Direct have been selling LiuGong machines for 10 years in the UK. It's going very, very well. We are actually now on target to sell 600 plus machines this year. This is the third 95 tonner we've sold to Brown & Mason, and Brown & Mason as a premier demolition company has been very, very good for us, been very supportive, and we're so happy to be able to be a preferred supplier to Brown & Mason.
Yeah, as your man said there, Brown & Mason do specialise in power station and heavy industrial demolition, and their equipment operates in some of the most hostile and demanding environments in the whole of the demolition sector. The fact that they've selected LiuGong, not once, not twice, but many, many times, it speaks volumes for the faith they have in the excavator brand. Now, we have, as I already said, we've got a newcomer in our midst, our friend Michael Vierhan, who actually spends his time killing knotweed. He is over on LinkedIn. If you are suffering from the scourge that is Japanese knotweed, then please go look him up over on LinkedIn. You can see the spelling of his name. I realise that killing plants is not usually a good idea. Generally, I think we're in the middle of no mow May, aren't we? But I think most people make an exception for Japanese knotweed, which destroys pretty much everything around it. Now, I think we need a spot of this. Now, just before I packed my bag and headed to Italy for the Samota show, I reported on the fact that Kobelco had just unveiled a pair of exciting new mini excavators. Well, as it turned out, my timing was pretty much spot on for once, because when I touched down in Verona, the two machines in question were actually on display. So we took the opportunity to take a good look around.
We're on the Kobelco stand at Samota 2023 to check out a pair of new mini excavators, the SK34FR and behind me the SK39FR.
And yes, before you ask, they really do look that good in real life. I've just realised, having watched that back for the first time since the weekend, I think I'm wearing the same T-shirt today. It's like we plan these things. But you all know better than that. We don't really plan anything. Going to say a very quick good morning to the team at Plantworks Construction Equipment Exhibition. Good morning. Less than a month, and we will all be in Peterborough. Be there or be square, people. You know where to find it. I tell you what I'll do, just to be absolutely sure. The competition to win the chip and pin gift card has now closed. Closed on at midnight on Friday night. However, you can still pre-register, and you can do so using the link that I've just posted in the chat. Now, where are we? Yeah, we've already featured one Chinese brand this morning, but you know how it is. As soon as you've had one, you fancy another one. So let's travel east once again to see what XCMG is up to in the field of mining. And the mighty XCMG are among those that will be exhibiting at Plantworks in less than a month's time. Now, we just had this in from the Plantworks team to say there are more competitions coming up. I've got one more to do. I had a bit of a tidy up at the weekend. You wouldn't know it looking behind me, but I've had a bit of a tidy up at the weekend, and I've still got a few Plantworks related giveaways to give away. My plan this time is to bag them all up into one big batch and send them to one lucky winner. May do that tomorrow, so watch this space. Nigel Williams is in the house as well. Now, the lads, a good morning to all from sunny East Norfolk. That's about as east can get, isn't it? East Norfolk. Good morning to you, Nigel. Many thanks indeed for joining us. Now, just going back to that XCMG thing, obviously the film there was about the machines, but did you see the mine? Size of that. I guess that's one of the things you can do in China when you're still, that wasn't a coal mine, but when you still have a thriving mining industry, unlike here in the UK. But yes, don't get me started. Let me have one of these because I've got a couple of good ones coming up for you now.
Since the finance bill came into effect in April, the construction industry has seen a surge of fuel thefts. The rising cost of living has placed an additional risk of theft by employees and contractors, as well as opportunistic thieves. By using diesel dye and placing warnings of its use, you are sending a clear message that this is your fuel.
Right, I've just reached for my soapbox. Stand by. Starting today, Health and Safety Executive Inspectors across the land will emerge from their hidey holes and they will be targeting demolition and construction dust. Now, according to the HSE, the dust that we're talking about here can cause life-changing diseases. But they apparently have no interest in drugs and alcohol abuse that does precisely the same thing, only in much larger numbers. According to the HSE also, this dust can be fatal, and yet they seemingly have no interest either in the construction suicides that are claiming more than 500 worker lives each year. And so, against that background, while my wife was out yesterday morning and while my children and my dogs were still in bed, I filmed a little thing. Morning, Chief. How can I help you? Good morning. I'm an inspector from the Health and Safety Executive. Blimey, we ain't seen one of your lot for bloody ages. Mind you, I guess you've been busy with like Didcot and Redcar and Long Gannet. A lot less busy than you might think, sir. So, why are you here then? I take it it's about like suicide and mental health and that sort of thing, because we did have a bloke last week try to off himself. No, it's not about mental health and suicide. We've looked at that issue and we've decided it takes quite a lot of manpower and human resources. So we've decided that's not really in our jurisdiction. Oh, right. So you must be here about like drugs and alcohol and that kind of thing, because obviously we had to let a bloke go last week because he smelt like a brewery, and I got a fairly good idea that a couple of other lads are dealing round the back here. No, sir, we're not here about drugs and alcohol. We've looked at that issue and we've decided it takes quite a lot of human resources, a lot of effort. So we've decided that's not really in our jurisdiction. So you're not here about mental health and you're not here about drugs and alcohol. What are you here for? Dust. Dust? Yes, dust. Why dust? Well, sir, according to our studies, dust can lead to life-changing diseases. What, worse than drugs and alcohol? Worse than suicide? Well, not exactly, but, human resources. So why the big concentration on dust? Come on. Well, I'll let you into a little secret, shall I, sir? You see, we're a bit stretched for manpower these days, but the good thing about dust is Joe Public can see it. So we basically sit around and drink coffee and we wait for the phone to ring, and as soon as somebody says, I want to complain about dust, we're on it, like a car bonnet, sir. This all sounds like some sort of cash grab, pal. No, sir. Perish the thought. So, shall we take a look around your site? If we must. Do you have your checkbook, sir? Wait, what? Nothing, sir. I do like your hard hat, though. I've got one just like it. Yeah. I realise sarcasm is the lowest form of wit, but I have a fairly low form of wit. Also, just to make it absolutely clear, I realise I pronounced it mental health in that clip. What you probably don't realise is that's actually my natural speaking voice. The way I sound at the moment, I'm putting this on. Mental health is exactly how it comes out of my mouth normally. I think we should have a chat about that and a few other bits and pieces after the show. Now, since that one was basically a gripe, I'm not going to do a gripe for today. I'm going to skip that for just today. Instead, I'm going to play us out with a new film from those fine attachment folks over at Alu.
Alu is a family-owned company that specializes in designing, developing, manufacturing, earth-moving environmental equipment.
Alu is an innovative leader with decades of experience, providing leading solutions for multiple industries which add value for every customer.
Alu's reputation is built on its core values: customer, safety, together.
Alu is a family.
With Alu, you are one step ahead.
Yes, I fell into the trap again, didn't I? I'm still saying Alu. It's Alu. I've said that before. We need to learn, people. So, as I said, I've already skipped our gripe of the day. I know Dan Cullen's got one. I'm going to save that for the chat afterwards. But if you've anything that you would like to gripe about, please let us know. What is it that grinds your gears, gets your goat, and generally butters your parsnips? The daily gripe therapy session will return probably tomorrow. That pretty much wraps up the main part of this morning's show. I will remind you, however, no, I'm not going to remind you because I'll be back this afternoon, because I won't. That's last week's script. Instead of which, I'm going to roll the outro in just a second before leaping gazelle-like over into the chat to see what you're all saying today. No contributions, as far as I can see, for what you would do if you were king for the day. Have a few suggestions of my own, which you'll hear. If you can't stick around for that, then please stay safe. Look after yourself, your family, your friends, and your colleagues. If you do have the time and the inclination, I'll see you on the other side of this for what is now known as the Craic. But first, here's a word from our key show sponsor. Now, let's have a spot of background music, shall we? Being a Monday, let's go synth. Yeah, I think that's about right. How are we all doing today? I hope we're all fitting well. I'm going to go back to the beginning of the chat. And first off, funnily enough, and I realise that you can't plan this because you don't know what my Stream Deck looks like. I have automatic triggers on a thing called a Stream Deck that allows me to respond as people arrive in the chat. And the first two people actually arrived in the same order that they are on my Stream Deck. First off the mark was Ken Hatcher, who has either a solar eclipse or not very good sunshine, or for those that remember the band Soundgarden, Black Hole Sun, maybe, I don't know. And Gary Muirhead, second on my list on the Stream Deck. Says, good morning, Mark. Good morning, gang. Hope you all had a good weekend. Excuse me. I certainly did. Got plenty done, including filming that, me arsing about, talking to myself, which is kind of what I do most of the time, actually. Just one thing that went wrong with that, and frankly, I didn't have time to re-record it. I filmed it with an effect on the camera that blurs out my background. The problem with that, the original idea was that I was going to green screen the whole thing and then put me on a demolition site. But because I'd used that blur effect, when I cut myself out using green screen, I basically lost the bottom half of my face. The beard freaked the system out. So you just had to make do with that. But I think it gets the message across anyway. Let's have a look. Kerry Jones. Morning all, listening but won't be able to communicate. A bit busy, not a problem at all. Fully understand, and priorities are all important, sir. There is our friend Mantis. Good morning to you, sir. Thank you very much indeed for being here. Been very busy over on LinkedIn this morning. There is the link to my podcast, A Japanese Adventure. As I say, it was recorded literally live. I was walking down a mountain in Kobe, took the cable car up, took just as a small aside on that. I stand 5'10". And 5'10" when I really hold myself up to my maximum height. To get in the cable car to take me up the mountain in Kobe, I had to queue up behind about 100 Japanese people. I was the tallest person in there by about a foot. Seriously. The only time I've ever considered myself tall. But that's a whole other side. If you'd like to listen to a Japanese adventure, just go to any podcast provider, search for Demolition News Radio, and search for a Japanese adventure, and you will go straight to it. I'm going to cough one more time. That's better, I think. Now, my question of the day, which I didn't get any answers for, was what would you do if you were king for a day? I was hoping that somebody would think along my lines and say, my first job as king for the day would be to abolish the monarchy. But that's just me, I guess. There is an article kicking around, by the way, over on LinkedIn by a company called Havio, talking about mental health, and it's about time we took a stand. If you'd like to read that, and I would recommend it, it really should be required reading, please just go to my profile on LinkedIn, Mark Anthony, obviously. Go search that out, and you'll see it posted there. Well worth a trip, well worth a viewing. Dan Cullen is still on his travels, and I think that's one of the reasons that he has his own pet gripe today. There is our friend Mr. Knotweed, Michael, thank you very much. Mr. Knotweed, that's a terrible name, I do apologise. We have somebody here who is listed as Facebook user. No idea. No idea why our friends over at Facebook have decided not to name that person, but there you are. Glenn Johnson's in the house. Morning, Glenn. Another of our LinkedIn viewers. Morning, Glenn. I hope you're fit and well, my friend. Dan Cullen, obviously a fan of the LiuGong. A nice machine. Here, I realise there is a certain degree, I think it's going down, but I think there is a degree of anti-Chinese sentiment in construction equipment circles. It's nothing new. I'm old enough to remember the anti-Japanese sentiment that we got when the Komatsus and Hitachis first arrived. I saw it again with anti-Korean when the Kobelcos and the Doosans arrived. I realise how these things work. The one thing I would say in the defence of LiuGong is some of the people that have adopted them most eagerly are in demolition circles. Brown and Mason, who we just saw, Scrib Group have got a bunch. Metro had one or two. Kent Demolition had one, possibly two. Scrib Group being a real point, a real example. They bought a couple, I guess, to test out the waters and see just whether these LiuGong machines could withstand a demolition environment. And they've since been back and bought some more, and then been back and bought some more, and then been back and bought some more. Repeat order after repeat order. I think that says a lot for the quality of the machine, or probably also says an awful lot about the level of backup that they get from LiuGong Direct down in, where are they, Portsmouth way, thereabouts. Our friend Mr. Knotweed is over in Oxfordshire, although I think the company is actually based elsewhere. You're not based near, is the company not based in Crawley? Did I not? Maybe I misread that, my apologies. Been in the environmental field for 15 years, killing knotweed. Yeah, an absolute scourge on the countryside is Japanese knotweed. And I know it's also the scourge of a good number of demolition companies as well. I was at an event a while back when somebody was actually speaking about how to identify it and how to treat it when you do come across it. There is our friend Jim Turner. Morning, Jim. Thank you very much indeed for being here. So you were active over on our WhatsApp group over the weekend. Ken Hatcher, our friend, he is not for no reason that he is known as Mr. Sprocket. Nice to see the sprockets in the correct place. That was referring back to the LiuGong machine, and yes, they most definitely were in the right place. Plantworks Construction Exhibition says good morning. As I say, I had to have a bit of a tidy up in this office over the weekend, basically because I couldn't move. And it turned out, I thought I'd used up all my Plantworks giveaways. Turned out I had a box within a box, and under the box, there are a few more. So I've got a couple of bits and pieces, and I'm planning to box them all up and give them away to one lucky winner. And Dan Cullen, if you've not already been hooked up with a baseball cap, I can tell you there is one in there. So make sure to tune in tomorrow, and I'll try to figure out how to give those away. You can still pre-register for the Plantworks exhibition, and I would strongly recommend that you do so that you can get straight through the gate, straight to the plant, and straight to me, and Lou Carney, and Angela Spink, and Gaz Evans and everybody else at Plantworks, rather than queuing up with the plebs and filling in forms. Cut to the chase. Go straight to the pre-registration and save yourselves a lot of time. There are more competitions coming from Plantworks as well. I'm not entirely sure. It must be about 29 days until Plantworks opens its doors. Not entirely sure, but it's less than a month now. So make sure that you tune in. And if you're not already following Plantworks Construction Exhibition over on Facebook, I strongly suggest that you do so, because I'm guessing that's where you'll first hear about the competitions. Nigel Williams is in the house all the way from sunny East Norfolk. Sunny East Norfolk. I don't think I've ever actually seen sunny East Norfolk. I've seen East Norfolk, and I've seen rain sideways, but I don't think I've ever seen it sunny. Dan Cullen says his gripe of the day is being told that you must be on a new job by 7:30 at 6:30 in the morning. Yeah, I would probably rank that right up there with you're off hire as of 5 minutes ago. That's a good one. That always goes down well with the gang, doesn't it? Gripe of the day for me is the inability to hasten the buying of my house. Listen, I can only empathise, Nigel. For those of you that have been around for a while, I know most of you have. I lost my parents last year. Won't bore you with the details of that, but their house is up for sale. We had an offer within about a month of actually putting it up for sale. Our solicitors have issued contracts, and here we are 2 months later, and we haven't moved an inch as far as I can tell. So yes, I can fully understand, and I remain convinced, and I'll come back to the health and safety executive in just a second. I remain convinced that the whole buying and selling of houses is there purely to keep estate agents and solicitors in gainful employment. For example, we've bought and sold houses over the years, and this idea that they have to wait for the money to arrive in the account of the estate agent that will then trigger the handing over of the keys. I do that all the time with one of these, with an iPhone. I could put that money in somebody else's account, and about a second later it arrives. And yet every time we've ever done it, you're sat there at 2 o'clock, 3 o'clock, 4 o'clock in the afternoon, all your worldly goods in a removal van, waiting for an estate agent to say, okay, you can move in. Ridiculous. Let's have a look. I'd get the gold coach out and go for a spin, says Ken Hatcher. Would be kind of cool, wouldn't it? Would be kind of cool. Yeah, Ken Hatcher has got some sunshine, which is nice to see. Soundgarden from back in 1993. There you go. It's not just me. Black Hole Sun with the mighty Chris Cornell. Sadly, no longer with us at the vocals. Still one of my favourites, The Japanese Adventure. Yeah, do you know, Nigel, and I don't know why I've not done more of that style. It was literally done on the spur of the moment. I had my iPhone with me. I had a headset with a microphone on it, and I thought, well, I'm not likely to get back to Japan, but why didn't I not do that around ConExpo? Why didn't I do it at Baumer? Why didn't I do it in Verona a couple of weeks ago at the Samoto show? I've no idea. Really should have done. I think I've got a bit caught up in the whole video thing, which is fine, but doesn't allow me to do stuff on the fly in quite the same way. Gaz Evans, who is furiously making models to put on display at Plantworks in less than a month more now. Good morning to you, Gaz. Dan Cullen says, I would abolish self-employment as people getting dropped at last minute is not good. That would be quite a nice one. And the gig economy. Do away with the gig economy. Give people a fair day's pay for a fair day's work. Questions like King for the day would be to make the voting age 25 and a net income tax contributor. Voting age 25, that's an interesting one. Squib Group do not look after their machines, unfortunately, due to experience here. Listen, you probably know more about it than I do, but whenever I've been to see Squib Group machines on site, they're always in remarkably good nick. So, yeah, there you are. Question of the day. I get online. I get on the online betting and see what king-based things I could do in a day. Had the best odds, then bang my bet on and make it happen. Yeah, I think mine might involve spending a bit of money as well. Let's have a look. Thank you, Mark. We'll log in again. All best. I'm known in the industry as Contract Killer. Not sure that's a name that I'd want to be banding about, but hey, what the hell. Next round of prizes, according to Plantworks Construction Exhibition. To enter, to be in with a chance of winning, you need to have registered for your free entry badge by 23:59 on Friday. Excuse me, Friday the 26th of May. If you've already registered, no need to register again. So if you registered, you're already in the draw. If you haven't, I suggest you do so very, very soon. Thank you for clarifying. I have no idea where I got Crawley from. Company Invasive Vegetation Management is based in the Midlands and Cambridgeshire, but national. They operate nationally. So if you do come across some knotweed and you need somebody to come and sort it out, Michael's your man. Absolutely spot on, Nigel. To be eligible to vote, a person should be law-abiding, a taxpayer, or previously been a taxpayer over 21 and have had to be educated to a certain level. Ideally, have passed a test to be eligible to vote. Isn't there something written into, I'm going to say, the Constitution? I'm not sure we have a Constitution as such. I know the Americans do, but I'm sure there is something that says lunatics are not allowed to vote. And yet, we'll hand a voting card to somebody fresh out of school who has experienced absolutely bugger all. Is that right? Let me know. Dan Cullen says, just landed on a job. It's literally the same size as a good back car. It's made my gears grind even more now. Yes, things do, don't they? One small block of flats by the looks of it. Okay, Nigel Williams. I've got conflict of interest issues with the executors of the will, and it's been 5 months waiting with the solicitors. House has been vacant for 18 months now. Absolutely ridiculous. Now, I'm going to go back to when I can find it. Somebody said something about the video. There you are. Absolutely love that skit. Yeah, again, it's one of those things. I don't get the opportunity to do it very often, but our wife was out and about yesterday, and children and dogs were in bed, so I had a bit of time on my hands. It doesn't detract, though, from the basic message of that. You have the Health and Safety Executive. Now, bear in mind, the Health and Safety Executive have achieved precisely nothing in 7.5 years since Didcot. We still don't know the precise cause of that accident. 4 men died. We have no answers. As you would have heard on our interview with Anne Mackay, she and another family have no idea quite what claimed the lives of their loved ones up at Redcar, the former Teesworks site, back in 2019. So that's more than 3.5 years later. And yet, the Health and Safety Executive has decided that the big focus of the moment, the next quarter or thereabouts, dust. Dust. Now, don't get me wrong, I'm well aware of the fact that dust is an issue. I realise it can cause respiratory issues and it can be potentially fatal depending what's within that dust. But when you read the Health and Safety Executive statement on this new campaign, it does make it very clear that while their officers are on site checking out the situation that has arisen around dust, they will be looking at other things as well. So in other words, you wait for Joe Public to send in a photograph or make a complaint about dust on site, and you pitch up and you poke around for just long enough to have secured a fine that would have justified your visit to the site, and then you can be on your way. And if anybody can tell me that that's wrong, then I'd love to hear from you. I would have thought they would be better off clearing up past investigations like Didcot, like Redcar, before they start worrying about dust. And all the time they're concentrating on dust, they are flatly refusing to address the issue of mental health, and they are flatly refusing to address the issues of drug and alcohol abuse on site. This goes back to one of the things, there's been a lot of criticism around the collusion investigation that involved 10 NFDC members and a lack of action on the NFDC's part. If the NFDC had just acted very quickly and decisively and basically temporarily suspended the 10 companies, the conversation would be over. If the health and safety executive had actually drawn a line in the sand under DIDCOT and under Redcar, then they could crack on with their anti-dust campaigns and nobody would say a word. But as it is, there are 6 families. There are more, but there's 6 that I can think of off the top of my head who lost loved ones and have now watched the health and safety executive do nothing for 7.5 and 3.5 years respectively. And now the health and safety executive is right, dust it is. If anyone remembers Little Britain and the swimming teacher, dust, anyone? Dust. Of all the issues in the world that we could be excited about, dust does not seem like a particularly important one to be targeting. Dan Cullen says he's just put a picture on WhatsApp. I'll take a look at that after the show, Dan. I just to let you know, and I've having fallen foul of this in the past, I have on occasions left my phone on regular mode rather than airplane mode, and the damn thing bleeps and whistles and buzzes all the way through the show. So literally, as I'm rolling the intro every single day, I turn my phone off. So I'll pick that up when I get back. Get the phone back online. Right, so tomorrow, not entirely sure what's going to be on the show, but I will be giving away a bunch of Plantworks goodies. If you fancy a bit of that, then please tune in. I'm sure we've got some more bits and pieces. I know we've got something from Bobcat coming up. I'm fairly sure we've got something from JCB coming up as well. I need to check exactly what it is that I've set aside for tomorrow's show. But yes, if you can tune in, then please do so. Couple of things. If you would be so kind, I'd love to get a few more views on our video about the HSE. It's on YouTube. If you go to youtube.com and search for Demolition News, it's probably the latest video there. If you could give it a thumbs up, and while you're there, hit the subscribe button. That would be an enormous help. I'd like to spread the word a bit. Failing that, just give it a like wherever you are. Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn. Yeah, take your pick. Right, people, go and have a fantastic day. It looks like the sun is coming out here, so I might get to work outside after all, bearing in mind all that I said before. But if you do get the time and the inclination, go and check out some of our other bits and pieces over on YouTube. You already know that my son Fred has passed the 100,000 mark over on YouTube as well. So he has quite a popular channel. Irritatingly popular, if you ask me. So go and check that out as well. See what he's been up to as well. I think that will probably do us. Everybody go and have a fantastic day. See you tomorrow for our latest and probably last Plantworks giveaway competition. Our last, not their last. But yes, tune in tomorrow and I'll see what I can give away at that time. Till then, everybody, have a fantastic day. Thanks for joining in, and I'll see you all on the morrow. All the best.